Welcome to the YouTube channel, Kickboxer the Original Cut.
It's sort of a very classical, fighter storyline that goes back to the champ on the waterfront. I could have been a contender, and this is, a guy in his, for honor, he's standing up for his brother. I had been the flavor of the month. I had shot the Werewolf TV series, and I was having to figure out what jobs I'm taking, and then the writer's strike hits, and no one's working. I wound up in Alaska for a couple of weeks doing aerial filming for a sort of nature film. But just before leaving, I had met with Mark, and we hit it off in the interview. They picked a perfect time to get money on screen because they had their pick of talent. No one's working. I was told, though, with great confidence, camera grip electric crew, they're going to be from Hong Kong through Salon Films. David had worked with them on Bloodsport. David's got a good reputation, certainly knows how to keep on schedule, so the technical people, if he vouches for them, great, because very often a DP will travel with at least their first assistant, their focus puller, but I was trusting everyone over there is going to be good. It was very peculiar, though. The night before the first day of shooting, Mark calls me up in my hotel room. He says, "So John, I'm going to be directing also, but please don't tell David." And that was very odd, to say the least. But I hope they work things out afterwards. They had good working relationship on set. It was very collaborative. And I think David also knew Mark didn't have a deep background, and he was helping Mark learn and pick up what's going on. I think also Mark had instincts of the sorts of future of what he wanted to keep making. And he was trying to sort that out on his own. I remember the first day of shooting, we're shooting in a warehouse where the girl's been taken hostage and the guys show up to rescue her. And I remember when I first met Jean-Claude in pre-production, he wanted to make sure that one of the bad guys gets a board coming right up into his face. There's sort of a tradition, which I think is a good one for some kinds of filmmaking, where the first day you really tackle a big scene with a lot of setups, and you see how everybody does, because then you see what's working, what's not. And we made our day the first day, and I remember the first shot, I just throw the camera down on an apple box with a sandbag, no tripod, and David looks at me like, "You're my kind of guy," because that's what, obviously you have to do this. If everyone's so fastidious, it's got to be level, you got to do this, you got to do that. Oh, there's a flare in the lens, we need a flag. No, you don't, just put your hand right there. Okay, fine, next setup. And everything is just moving like that, and that's what you're doing. I did the Steadicam operating for the training sequences where it's surrounded by bamboo, so when Jean-Claude is hitting with bamboo sticks, he's whacking my legs, making it look a lot harder than it really was. But then there was also a good Steadicam operator in Hong Kong where the camera's going down into the final fight that looks as if it's underground. It's not. And I was too busy on other cameras and looking at the lighting.
What is this?
This is Stone City, where many ancient warriors come.
We're shooting at the ancient city or temple of Ayutthaya, which is up north. It was about an hour and a half outside of Bangkok, and it's all brick. And at the time, these new filters came out from Tiffin. I've got one here. They called it an enhancing filter. It doesn't look like much when you're looking through it, but it makes reds pop and bricks. So it really brings up the reds. So for all that stuff in the Ayutthaya, I was designing the shots so we'd be cross-lit, so polarizers could really help the sky pop. We'd often have stacks of 4 or 5 filters all loaded up in the matte box. We're going to be shooting at this ancient city. I've asked for a map a bunch of times. No one gives me a map because they say, well, we'll get one when we get there. But there are plans for the sunrise stuff, and I had already worked with the prop people, and we had come up with the spear that Jean-Claude's practicing with. It's glowing red hot. It's actually a little MR16 light bulb powered by batteries, and it's lighting up a plexiglass. So we've got to shoot that. We went through 2 cracks at it, before sunrise and after sunset, when the sky is still a deep blue. So I lined up on a map. All my Boy Scout training comes back. Okay, so we're going to be here with a 600mm lens, and Jean-Claude's going to be up there, and we've got walkie-talkie set up, and it's, you know, we've got all the buses, all the trucks, I don't know, 500 feet of vehicle going up there, parking in the dark, so we can be ready. And of course, there's a little light in the sky a long time before the sun actually comes up. So we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting, and we're proud that we've got there all in time. And as the sun comes up, I'm seeing something, or not the sun, but as it's a little bit of light, there's this ginormous radio tower right in the shot in the background. And there's no way to move a few feet here or a few feet there. So, okay, back to the map. What are we going to do? 30, 40 people grab cases, grab tripods, grab everything, and we're moving like a quarter of a mile to another location, and it works, obviously. Thailand was all the location stuff, which was really wonderful to see the country that way. In Hong Kong, we were on stage. It was a big stage where they had shot the big Kuomintang fight for Bloodsport. And it was a fair-sized stage, not by LA standards, but it was a good-sized stage. And those torches, you will never see anything like that in North America because of health standards. We're burning kerosene, it's black, it's sooty. People are wearing towels over their faces, and there's black on the outside of the towels. But it looks great on camera. It looks really great on camera. The art department, though, in Hong Kong was quite good. They had sculpted all these big statues in the so-called underground fight area out of styrofoam. So there's a lot of styrofoam there, all this big, like a cobra and some other things. So we had to be careful with the torches because it was quite a fire trap with all the styrofoam. There was a little bit of frustration sometimes, not much, that Jean-Claude had with Michel, who had been a good friend of his, sparring partner, training partner, who was playing the bad guy, and in terms of what the choreography would be. And Jean-Claude goes off and he has a conversation with Mark, but then he comes back on set, and there's some grumblings from the extras, and they're not getting back in their seats in time. Jean-Claude starts screaming. And he starts insulting the extras in general and says, Stallone was right. I don't know what he meant by that, but something about the extras. And he went on a short tirade, and there's snickering in particular that came from the makeup guy. And Jean-Claude points over, and you, I kill you. And more murmuring from the extras. And then they are talking to each other in Chinese, and they stand up as a group, and 100+ extras leave the building. Now, this is also on top of all the smoke they're having to breathe. This is not just reacting to Jean-Claude. So I don't know what was said in Chinese, but we wrapped for the day. Actually, probably we didn't. I am sure we kept shooting inserts and cutaways, and let's get a few people behind the bad guy, Freddy Li getting kicked or something like that. We kept shooting. He was a gentleman, but for that moment, which is somewhat understandable. I mean, when you consider the pressure on someone, you're carrying the whole movie. And you know someone back in LA is putting up a few $1,000,000 for it. That's a lot of pressure. And yeah, it's a privilege to be there, but it's a lot easier to carry the pressure when you're behind the camera instead of in front of the camera.
Is that enough?
We had the option on set during Kickboxer. We could eat whatever they were catering or what was getting prepared for Jean-Claude. And every day it was the same. Broccoli, skinless chicken, and pasta with no sauce. You know, very clean, very healthy, and yeah, and no chocolate. In Kickboxer, what we try to do is always show angles, which is not the typical, here, let's just show everything like it's a newsreel. But what can amplify the drama, show you something different about it. If it's the final fight, there's blood that's down on the mat. So high angles looking down, that's interesting. Low angles, and you can see helicopter kicks better. We were shooting the scene where Jean-Claude meets Jean, who's training him up for the big fight. And his character has a dog. So the producers had to find an animal trainer to get a dog. It was not a very well-trained dog. So the dog is, when he's standing at attention and looking off screen, he's looking at the trainer, but it looks as if he's looking at Jean or Jean-Claude, and the dog has always got an erection. All day long, the dog's got an erection. And Jean-Claude's having to do this scene with a straight face. So that was good acting on his part.
One day that dog is going to believe in me.
I was involved in the timing of the release print, all the color correction. And Technicolor had some challenges doing this because the last reel, I was told by the timer, there are more cuts in the final reel than anything we've ever done in history, except for Beverly Hills Cop. Or maybe it was a sequel to Beverly, I'm not sure which one. You know, we have all these angles, and what Jean-Claude and Wayne Warman wound up figuring out doing is, let's use all the angles. You show the punching here, let's repeat it here, repeat it here, repeat it here. Of course, people couldn't survive that kind of punishment in reality, but it looks good in film. And the answer print looked great, but then what happened, and I was not involved in this part, to save money for the release printing, it was all done on AGFA stock. But none of the timing was for how it's going to look. On AGFA stock, it responds differently. So I'm waiting for the review to come out in Hollywood Reporter and Variety, and one of the reviews said, it looks muddy. It looks friggin' muddy? Damn it, I didn't work so hard to get that. So that was too bad. And fortunately, in this 4K, I'm sure it'll look much nicer because you're coming off of a printing master, which would have been on Eastman stock after the timing. Years later, I wound up doing a commercial for Lotte chocolate. It's a big brand in Asia. I think they're German, but this was for Asian distribution. So they had hired Jean-Claude as a spokesperson. This is the early 90s. And we were shooting in locations in Malibu and on the lot at Universal. And Jean-Claude, I remember he had to eat it a few times. And he was coming over to me sort of confiding, oh my God, this is giving me the shakes. I had a really good time on the film. It's sort of a very classical, fighter storyline that goes back to the champ. On the waterfront, I could have been a contender, and this is, a guy in for honor, he's standing up for his brother. They had understood how contacts can work and not work in terms of the angles, and they knew this is about the story and building sympathy and more it's a merging of Hollywood and, the best of traditions of Bruce Lee.
Please subscribe, like, share, and comment. Thank you very much for your support.